Hello, everybody. Today I would like to talk about a place again that I've talked about before. If you guys recall, I've talked about Johns Hopkins. Um, Terrible company, in my personal opinion, and they tricked my parents and they tricked my brother, and I was there for it. When I was a child, let me fix my bow tie. This is actually my husband's bow tie, but he let me borrow it today. Oh, go. Much better. Um, the first thing that I would like to talk about is their solitary confinement rooms. So, basically, when I was there in Kennedy Krieger Institute, which is owned by Johns Hopkins, I was in solitary confinement a lot. I was a child. I was with a class that specialized in autism. Um, One of my classmates, I actually still know some of my classmates that were there with me. I know Jen, but like I won't say her last name. I wanted to get her to like talk with me about this, but now she kind of backed out. She's too scared to. At first, I was going to be very subtle about talking about Johns Hopkins, hint it in little ways so that I wouldn't get sued. But you know what? There's still kids there today. There's still kids there today. So I decided, you know what? Screw it. If I get in trouble, it's worth it because somebody needs to be talking about this. Um, I got put in solitary confinement for stupid reasons. I had a can opener for my mother and a can of soup, and they called the can opener a weapon. I was angry at my therapist one time because I wore a foxtail there, and it was just for fun. And she tried to say that I thought that I was a fox, so they could give me weird medication. I had this friend. His name was Elijah. He was my best friend for the first year, and they put him in unusual medication, and it made him act very strange. He was very depressed for the many years that I was there until I finally left. Every single time I asked him why he was upset, he would give me the unusual answer that his sister's hamster died. Um, my brother, suspiciously, his name was Noah. He was put into another building entirely. They kept there was one building, and I have my suspicions, but I'm not sure that like this building was for nonverbal children, and then the building that we were in were verbal children. Why would they want to separate verbal and nonverbal children? It doesn't make any sense unless there's something that they do to the nonverbal children that they don't want to be telling the verbal children. I actually rode the bus with my brother, and that was how I knew what building they put him in. I think it was called Leap or something about a frog or something like that, but I don't remember entirely. But it was also owned by Johns Hopkins, um, and it was either with or linked to in some way Kennedy Krieger as well. So it was basically just Kennedy Krieger, but called something else. Johns Hopkins has been exposed, and this isn't even half of it. There's like way more shit that I'm about to tell you. But first off, let me start off by saying this shouldn't come as a surprise because Johns Hopkins has been exposed to be doing shit to people for many many years now. Even though they're like one of the leading companies that like help with medical stuff. For example, there was this one lady. I think the it was called Hela or something like that. Hela, what was it called? It was some kind of cells. I'm trying to research. What was it called? Hela cells, I think. Yes, they were called Hela cells. There was this woman. She came by one day. This was a long, long, long time ago, before I was even born. But this is an example of Johns Hopkins doing sketchy shit over the years, and why you guys shouldn't be surprised that they're doing it now. They She had a purple tumor, and like after she died, they found that she had immortal purple tumor cells, and they took those cells without the permission of the family or the woman, and they sold those cells all around the world because those cells could not die, and they were using them for experiments. Most of Johns Hopkins' sketchy shit is related to human experiments and experiments on human cells. Another thing that Johns Hopkins did was they experimented they had like some kind of sketchy neighborhood or something like that, and they had like specifically houses for black people, and they put lead inside of the walls or something like that to like see how it would affect the people there, like in those buildings. Oh, hello, Bill Boss. How are you? And so yeah, those it was just there's multiple things. Now, one person, two people who were subject to Johns Hopkins shit were yours only, as well as my brother. Um oh, the wedding is gonna be in the summer, Bill Boss. I'm already married, but I'm having like a wedding the way that I sit on the way. Anyway, so yeah, when I was at Kennedy Krieger, I would be dragged down the halls and into solitary confinement rooms. Not everyone was bad. There was a guy who was pretty fair about solitary confinement. We called him Mr. Matt, and he was actually pretty nice about it. But not every staff member was the same. Some staff members were awful, and they would drag you down the hallways by your feet like savages and just put you in solitary confinement and lock you in there. And they totally got away with it. They got away with it completely. And then they would call your parents and exaggerate and say that you were doing behaviors that you weren't doing. Johns Hopkins is shit. I don't care what people think about Johns Hopkins, they're shit. They own this place called Kennedy Krieger, and Kennedy Krieger abuses children. And I was there for it. I was there for it. I was abused in Kennedy Krieger. My brother was abused. We were both abused. Um, and they were both owned by Johns Hopkins. And it's not Johns Hopkins, like, it's shit. So anyway, then what happened was like, yeah, stuff like that. Um, I remember specifically one time when I was in solitary confinement in the room next to me, there was a young man who I assumed that he had autism. Oh no, why is the message retracted? I did not retract this message. Why is your message retracted? Who's retracting messages? I saw that message. That message was harmless. Anyway, yeah, sorry about that, Bill Boss. Anyway, what was I was gonna say? So, yeah, you know, um, there were good things about it and there were bad things about it, but there was still abuse. Kennedy Krieger had good programs, it had some good things, but at the end of the day, there was still some abuse as well. Um, my, uh, I was trying to leave all the time. I'm just gonna be honest. I was going through a lot of bad things at home, and I should have had help. But instead, Kennedy Krieger never gave a shit or helped me with social services at all or tried to do anything to help me until my parents were just about to pull me out of the program. And then suddenly Kennedy Krieger is all up their asses with all up my parents' asses with social services, despite the fact that there was obviously things going on for a while now. They just so happened to care as soon as I'm about to need to leave. Um, so basically, here my brother got the end of the stick way worse than I did, though. Um, like, oh yeah, I almost forgot talking about the kid that was in the solitary room next to me. So he was banging his head repeatedly on the wall, and I could hear it. It was that loud. It was very loud. It was horrifying. Actually, no, it was the door or something. And then the staff guy said, "Stop hitting your head," and he said that the kid was going to be in there the longer he hit his head. Here's the thing: a child who is suffering from mental illness and is repeatedly hitting their head on a wall needs to have some kind of assistance. They don't need to be locked in a room made of hard bricks so that they can just hit their head more, but this time on bricks, and have just be by themselves so that nobody can stop it. That's actually, I personally think that even though that's not legally abuse, it should count as abuse. Because you don't just take a child that it's your job to take care of and protect that has special needs and just allow them to hit their head on a brick wall over and over and over, or a metal door or whatever. Absolutely, that's right, yeah. And, like, the guy just started fucking yelling at this child who was beating their head on the wall, and it's like, "You're making it worse. Why are you yelling at a disabled little boy, like, because he's hitting his head on the that doesn't make or I assume it was the wall, it could have been anything, but the whole room was too hard to be hitting your head on. There was a solid concrete type floor. You could see the concrete, like, when, like, the chips of the thing came up sometimes. So that's how I knew it was concrete. It had some type of linoleum layered over it. The walls were made out of like white, big, thick bricks. There was a metal, hard blue door. Um, yeah, there was a camera in the corner, but that didn't. What is that noise? Oh, ABZ's streaming again. Anyway, but yeah, it was just really bad, and of course he was hitting his head on something very hard. Um, you know, um, yeah, but Maryland allows a lot of shit to children. I think one of the leaders or something I had heard somewhere like had was like using the money that was meant to fund the disabled children in that state or city or whatever it was I heard and this like kept it for himself and like got in trouble for it, you know? So like yeah, but anyway, here's the worst thing. So Johns Hopkins also screwed over my brother, and I think they screwed over my mom as well. The mom thing I'm about to tell about my mom, I've never told before, but I'm gonna tell it. So, as for they experiment on both my mother, they experimented on both my mom and my little brother. So basically, what happened with my little brother was they said that they were going to help my brother and they were going to teach him to be able to be taught, which doesn't make any sense. That's circular reasoning. Like, that is a what? But my mom was desperate and she was like, okay, because they said that they would do it for her for free. So she brings him every day to this place, and for a lot of it, I was there too, but I was in a different room. And they apparently, they were being all nice to my brother and stuff like that. And then, like, it was all cool, but then, like, apparently later they were teaching him to hit himself so that they could unteach him to hit himself so that he could learn to be taught. And now he still has these seizure like moments where he will freak out and start hitting himself and bashing his head on things to this day. This is still something that he struggles with. And then he had to be put in mental homes after that because he was also violent to others during that. He was not nearly as bad before they did that to him. So now he has to spend his entire life with this problem where he could just start beating the shit out of himself at any moment. And this first started happening to him as a child. Um, so yeah, nothing compared to the things that happened to me. But still, the things that happen to me are probably more common and probably happen to most children. Like, I think that I got like the low end of the spectrum of the shit that kids go through, and he got the high end of the spectrum, partially because he was nonverbal. I think that's why he had it so much worse, was because he was nonverbal. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, Bill Boss. It's just, it's weird. And this is where it gets crazier. So, social services started threatening to take my little brother away because we had a concrete, no, wait, we didn't have concrete. We had a dirt yard, and like my brother was like eating dirt or something because he has pica or pica. I also have the same thing. I have constant cravings every day for dirt, chalk, clay, concrete, bricks, mud, sand, but I ignore it except for chalk, which I'll eat chalk because chalk is technically edible if you get the proper kind. I'm not doing that now because I'm saving money, but I used to eat like just a pack of chalk every day, but it's much better now. But yeah, it's genetic, and my brother and I both have it. But anyway, so Sulcer, but my mom was refusing to not let my brother go outside because she felt like everyone feels like common sense. Little boys should go outside and play and get some fresh air. And at that point, he was like on deworming medication and stuff, which yes sounds gross, but he was autistic, severely autistic. He was gonna be eating dirt anyway, so there had to be things put in place to protect him. But social services decided, no, 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 that's abusive because he's eating dirt and you're the parent and you're supposed to keep him from eating dirt. And so they were going to take him away unless my mom did something about it. And she refused to not let him go outside. So she decided that she needed some money. So she literally let Johns Hopkins experiment on her for money. I know this sounds like I'm making it up, but I'm not. And like it made her age faster or something like that. And there were these things called sunspots that like came into her face pretty soon and stuff like that. So, but she got the money and she used the money to build a tall fence in our backyard so that my brother couldn't escape and would be safe from the neighbors. And my brother would also go outside naked because of his disability. So this tall fence would keep the neighbors from seeing him. And then she still wanted to have grass so that I could at least play in the grass section of the yard. Um, and she still wanted a garden and stuff. So she divided the yard in two with a metal, not so tall fence, but it was tall as well, but it was like transparent and it was actually kind of pretty and it was black and nice. And yeah, that's how she divided the yard in half. And then one half of the yard was covered entirely in concrete. And then the other half of the yard was left as grass and had a nice trampoline and a pretty tree in it. And I loved playing there as a child. That was great. Although it was unfortunate because we had to get rid of the tulips and the vegetable garden and a Japanese maple that we had had on the concrete side of the yard. But it was worth it because losing your brother is not worth a Japanese maple tree or tulips or anything like that. You know, nobody's gonna anyway, but like yeah, so social services left her alone after that, but funnily enough, he started chipping away at the concrete and eating that instead. And I started joining in on it because I was a kid too, and I also had the same disorder and would eat weird things. So, what are you gonna do? I actually got really sick from it. Um, yeah, so basically, then what happened was my mom used the rest of the money to help this girl, and her name was Fatty Mata or something, and she lived in like Africa. So, you know, like my mom, you know, she was like, you know, she wasn't perfect. You know, she made some mistakes as a mom sometimes, but that was definitely something that I feel like she handled very well and I have a lot of respect because she sacrificed herself so that she could keep my brother and have a good yard for him and a safe yard for him to play in, and then she used the rest of the money for charity. So, you know, go mom. Um anyway, so yeah, but you know, I also remember, you know, Kennedy Krieger, I wasn't the only one that got dragged down the hallway. Other kids did too. Kennedy Krieger has this rule that not every staff member follows. The rule is supposed to be that you sit behind a piece of tape that they put in front of the door for 5 minutes, and if you're good, then they'll let you out. Or like, but if you like aren't good, then they restart your time and they leave the door open. But no, some staff members would just lock us in there and forget about us. Hey Joe D, what's up? So anyway, yeah, Kennedy Krieger is really bad, and Johns Hopkins is really bad, and don't send your kid there. Um, you know, solitary confinement is actually awful, especially for children. And yeah, that's the point of what I'm saying today. So I hope that my point has come across, and I'm gonna start another stream that is Joe D. What do you mean? How are you mean? I don't remember. But thank you. That's okay. You know, whatever happened, it's okay. Um, I guess. Anyway, everybody, I'm going to make a new stream now since I'm talking about a different topic. My next one is going to be playing around with Google Earth. Oh, by the way, I just want to add I made like 3 videos and YouTube flagged them. Yeah.